Hi guys, this is Peyton with Girls Gone Right, and today we have a special episode that one of you guys actually told me to do. It was on Instagram. I asked what kind of topics you guys want to hear, and someone said Roman Empire, which is a great topic because men are thinking about this all of the time apparently. So I have recruited a man who thinks about the Roman Empire often that said that he would come on to Girls Gone Right and explain to us why men think about it so often. And we're going to discuss the backstory of it, how many times they think about it a day, why they think about it so often, some fun facts about the Roman Empire, and who is a girl's Roman Empire? Who do you guys think that my Roman Empire is? And I think if you've been looking at my stuff recently, you probably can guess who my Roman Empire is. But I think also men and women are so different. Like that's another important angle of this topic, the Roman Empire, that men and women, their brains work so differently. Like men can see a building and think about the Roman Empire. Like I live in Nashville and I live by the Parthenon and I've never looked at that and thought about the Roman Empire. And men will look at that and they think about it, but it's just women and men, their brains work so differently. Their brains are wired differently. And it's so interesting to think that men relate to the Roman Empire the most. And I think it's because the Roman Empire is so masculine and women relate to things that are so feminine because we are different. Men and women are not the same. So we're going to have a whole discussion with my friend Christian, and let's get to it. Hi, this is Peyton with Girls Gone Right, and we have Christian here today. How are you, Christian?
Good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. We have Christian on because we have a very important question that all these girls are dying to know and trying to figure out. And Christian came to the rescue and is going to help us understand why men think about the Roman Empire so much. So, Christian, right off the bat, how many times a week do you think about the Roman Empire?
Do you ever think about the Roman Empire?
Do you ever think about the what?
The Roman Empire.
A lot of cool shit happened back then. A few times a week, I'd say.
Question.
Okay.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Pretty consistently.
Wait, you're kidding.
No.
Man, I mean, often it's one of those things that I feel like you can kind of connect to a little bit of everything in life. Coincidentally enough, I grew up in a city called Rome, so it, very much so is a part of our daily life.
Okay. So, you think about this every week?
Yeah. I mean, probably multiple times throughout the week.
Oh my gosh. So what do you see that makes you think about the Roman Empire, or what makes you think about this?
So, going back to being younger, I mean, in Rome, we actually have like an aqueduct that they built, and it's like 5 minutes from my house. So every time you drive into town, you had to pass it. So it's just always like right there in front of you. And of course, being from a city called Rome, Georgia, every person you meet when you tell them you're from Rome, they say, "Oh, Rome, Italy." So it's just it's always popping up. But too, I mean, I'm in the military, and so some of the tactics and things like that they teach are from Roman military tactics. So it just randomly pops up, and I feel like you see the 300 Spartan memes every time I turn on social media too. So it's like I said, it's just kind of in every random aspect of life for some reason.
Okay, we have very different For You pages because I don't think I've ever seen any Spartan Roman Empire memes, but that is so interesting. So like you see these things and guys think about the Roman Empire, and I live in Nashville and there's the Parthenon, and I can tell you that I've never thought about the Roman Empire. I will see things and that's not the first thing that comes to mind. So that's so interesting that you will see these things and it just reminds you of the Roman Empire. Also the fact that you are from Rome, Georgia, which of course brings it up. But why do you think that guys see these things and think about the Roman Empire?
I think it starts at a young age, funny enough. As guys, we were running around the front yard, with sticks, sword fighting and, whatever. I remember me and all my buddies would, you throw on like a cape or something, you feel like you're Superman, a soldier, whatever it is, right? So I think it kind of starts at that young age, and then what was it, high school, I guess, is when like all that Assassin's Creed, I never was a big video game guy, but I know Assassin's Creed came out and it was like Roman themed. So throughout high school, everyone was, my age was playing stuff like that. And I think you carry those random things with you as you
Yeah.
grow up. Um, and then again, there's been so many, as a guy, you watch every war movie that ever comes out, right? Every, you know, whatever, if it's Discovery Channel, the History Channel, or just a movie that comes out, 300 Spartans, or, Gladiator. I feel like that's a big one that a lot of people have seen. So it's something that, like I said, all roads lead to Rome, right? I mean, that's the saying they have. So it's kind of like interconnected. I mean, the kingdom was around for 700 plus years. So I feel like when you're around for that long, you kind of stick.
Yeah. Wow. And all of these movies that you're saying, I specifically have watched like the first 5 minutes of and hated. Like, I actually
Right.
like when I'm watching and picking a movie, I specifically don't like anything about the Roman Empire. Like, I don't want any like medieval, I don't want like any of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just seems like so out of date and I cannot relate to it. So I think that just like attests to the fact that men and women, their brains work so differently. And the fact that
Yeah.
men are so intrigued by this and think about it a lot and they watch all of these movies. And like literally when I hear a movie about like, hey, do you want to go watch a movie about the Roman Empire? Like that's the last thing that I would want to do.
Right. It makes
So that's
sense. I mean, yeah.
it's so interesting that guys see that and they're like, yes, I have to watch it all. But I think that we don't even have enough of that in culture today because, I mean, at least right now, I think men should be thinking about the Roman Empire more. Come to think of it, like like you said, you are thinking about it a lot, but I think that there are like a lot of people in our culture and men that are not looking back and reflecting and using those values. Because I think really like you are looking at the values, like Roman Empire, they built everything by hand. They started an empire. They started like, I guess like all of these values. And if you think about it, it's like the definition of masculinity. Like I do see it on like the masculine pages, like they will post something about the Roman Empire and they kind of just relate to that as like to how a man should be. So I think we just don't have enough of that. And more men need to be thinking about the Roman Empire. There are some men that don't think about it at all and have no idea what it is. I'm a girl, so it's fine.
No, totally. I mean, I think that, one of the big things about the Roman Empire is it fell apart from the inside. Rome didn't they were being attacked by like Germanic armies, but the whole reason Rome crumbled was because of corruption within like the Senate and within their like own government, and basically everyone just kind of was done with Rome. So I think it's definitely, history repeats itself, and so I think that's why I've always been so keen on knowing what's happened before, because if you can see like things tend to then just happen again in a different way later on down the road. And I think that right now, C.S. Lewis, he has a famous quote saying that we are living in a generation of men that sit, that don't stand. And I think that when you look back at things like the Roman Empire, like talking about masculinity, it was a very masculine, very, let's get our hands dirty, let's get things done. And nowadays it's not like that. It's kind of frowned upon to be masculine in a way, which is interesting. So
yeah, well, that's like mind-blowing too, what you said, that history repeats itself. So do you think that it's kind of inevitable, like you said, Rome corrupted itself? Do you think that that is a possibility for our own democracy, especially with the culture of where we're at now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, history repeats itself. It doesn't necessarily have to repeat itself in the same, like, exact same manner, talking about an entire empire crashing down, right? But I do think that the corruption that you find within, I mean, even look at, representatives, senators, presidents, there's this app, and I forget the name, it like tracks their net worth when they get elected, and then like tracks it like throughout the process of them in office. And people go from a net worth of $100,000 to $100 million by the time they leave. So just looking at corruption with stuff like that, right, when it comes to insider trading and just people in office for their own selfish ambitions and not necessarily in it for us. So I think that we're not really showing a great track record right now of not having corruption. So I think it's important to know what has happened before so we can try and stop it from happening again. So I definitely think we're not on a good road, but I think there's enough people that can recognize that we're not on a good road that you can change the path.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. What do you think is, like, I guess speaking of the Roman Empire, what do you think is something that you can pull from the Roman Empire that's happening in today's society that relates the most?
Um, I think a lot of like towards the end of the Roman Empire, there's a lot of just random, like I forget the emperor's name, but he came up with a law that said like there's no kissing in public. Just like random things that because he could like decree something and say you can't do this, he did. Um, so, I feel like there's a lot of stuff, when it comes to things like, vaccinations and different, when it came to COVID and whatnot, it feels like now more than ever, there's a lot of laws being put in place just because people can.
Yeah,
It's I have the power, so let me use the power. You look at um, presidents throughout history and ones that have put in executive orders. First day of office, normally it was like one or two, three or four, and I think Trump had like 30 something, and Biden's was like 300. So
yeah,
you look at like in the past, I'm the emperor of the biggest, country empire on the planet, and it's kind of, I mean, how the U.S. is, this the most powerful country on earth. So I mean, I'm sure there has to be some sort of like superiority complex that comes with like having that amount of power. It's just I don't
yeah,
think it was meant for one person alone, and it's kind of
yeah.
trending, you know, to be for one person instead of that's why it's supposed to be, for the people, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like the government is supposed to be working for the people, not vice
Hmm.
versa. The people are not supposed to be working for the government. And
Right.
I think a lot of the time people get caught up in their own power. It no longer turns in what
Hmm.
can I do for this country? How can I serve this country? I mean,
Right.
especially with our own American history, like our founding
Hmm.
fathers wrote the Constitution and with the mindset of how can I protect our people? How can I protect their rights? How can I protect their like just their
Yeah.
biblical rights and everything. So they put that in a constitution to serve the people. But nowadays, it's like you think of Biden, who's in office right now, and he's not considering that. I think that's the furthest thing from his mind is
Hmm.
considering what he do for the people and how can he protect us. Because at this point, all of the things that he's pushing are hurting the people. So I
Yeah.
think that that's really interesting. Like an interesting similarity is that sometimes power can lead to corruption. And
Yeah.
we're kind of like seeing that, I mean, in the Senate and everything right now, people go on that power trip and
Yeah.
they are just simply doing it because they can.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see how it's like all playing out. And like you said, history can repeat itself if you don't learn from the past. So a lot of the times, like we do study history because we see what people did right, what people did wrong, and you kind of have to study that to reflect and
Right.
not make that same mistake again. And
Yeah.
I feel like as a country, we are not we are not doing that at all, and
No.
it's creating a huge divide.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's you look at. I think another similarity is, towards the end of the Roman Empire, you had the emperor, that was kind of a figurehead, right? But really the Senate is kind of what pushed a lot of, the mandates. It's kind of like
Hmm.
you look at England now, they have king and queen, but they really just kind of sit there and look pretty, right? They don't make
Hmm.
a lot of the decisions. And I feel like that's kind of, going into today. You either have presidents who are very presidential, who are actively, doing things and trying to, push legislation through, and then you have other presidents who are allowing, other people to then dictate what they're doing. I feel like you
Hmm.
can definitely tell when someone believes what they're standing behind and when somebody is a puppet on a string.
Yeah, yeah, and I think one of the biggest issues too that we're seeing is the southern border, how we are letting people in our country, and like the Roman Empire did everything that they could to protect
Hmm.
their empire and their land and their people. And right now we have the southern border that's been an issue for so long, and
Right.
there's been very little action. And then we see these people coming in and destroying our country because they're not doing it legally. And had it been legally, there are things that we can do to protect our people and protect
Right.
states and protect our economy. But now we're seeing this people infiltrate our company that or our country that we are allowing in. I feel like that's like a similarity too, is that's not
Yeah.
something that like we should be able to take the past and learn from it and use that for our southern border, but instead we are
Right.
just letting people right in. So there is another similarity. What is one of the weirdest thing, like a weird fact about the Roman Empire?
Um, there, I guess the first two that pop in my head is there was some like big feast and there's like 10,000 people there and like the delicacy was ostrich brain.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah, like that was, like, hey, here's your 5-star Wagyu. It's ostrich brain tonight. And then another thing is, kind of going off the food thing, that apparently another one was like flamingo tongue. That was like
Wow.
kids, we're eating out tonight. We're getting some flamingo tongue. Like this is a big thing. And then they also like loved cats, oddly enough. Like the cats
Okay.
were allowed to be strays in the Roman Empire. Like you weren't allowed to like kill a cat if it was a stray. Everyone kind of took care of them. Couldn't tell you why. I just know that that's in all the movies I saw. There were always cats all around. Like it was just always a thing.
Hmm.
Like I really never saw like dogs. And I was looking it up. I forget when, and yeah, it's one of the first. If you look up like fun facts about the Roman Empire, for some reason, it's also one of the first things that pops up is cats just roam around. So those are kind of three just random things about it.
That's so interesting. So the Roman Empire, they were cat people. And I feel like that's such a
Hmm.
red flag nowadays.
Yeah. Dog people rule the world for sure.
That is so interesting because you think dog masculinity, like
Yeah.
man's best friend. No one says that
Hmm.
about a cat. A cat is not a man's best friend. I
Yeah.
am anti-cat. I am not a cat person. I feel like cats
Mm-mm.
are very, very weird. I think there's exceptions. I think a girl can have a cat and that's fine. But I think if a guy has a cat, that is so weird because I just imagine a guy at home petting a cat all alone. And do you have a cat?
No. We had like as I should have said yes. No, but as a family when we were younger, we had one that was kind of like it was my mom's when she was a kid. Um, but again, it was like I feel like most cats where it just ran outside and we never.
As
His name was
cats do because
Sam. Yeah,
they're not pets.
yeah.
If
That's what I would. Yeah, I always tell
if
people
it
if you
runs
know.
away,
Yeah. It's weird. It's like you're kind of letting you know cats are kind of the owner at that point because they're like, you kind of have to, they come and go as they please. They don't really listen. You can't, I always tell buddies, if cats were like 3 feet tall and you could put a leash on it, they could do tricks and like, you could call them and they'd be cool. If they were bigger, if they
yep.
were, you know, which I guess that's just what like a lion would be. But I never understood. I mean, it's just kind of an animal that sits there and you can't call it. If you want it to come over, you
Yeah.
you just have to hope it doesn't claw you when you pick it up. So
Yeah, it's an interesting, but my take is if you are a single guy with a cat, get a dog because I think a cat just shows that you don't want the responsibility, but you're lonely. So it's kind of just really
yeah,
desperate, like, oh, what kind of animal can I get that is not a lot of responsibility because I don't want to put in the work, but I'm very, very lonely. So they get a
yeah,
cat, and that's what I think about. Like, okay, get a dog, step up, be a man, take on the responsibility, have a
right.
normal pet. Like a dog is completely fine, be a single man and get a dog, but I just feel like a single man with a dog, I think about that in my head and I'm just like, wow, this man like sits at home and holds this cat and cleans up a litter box, and to me like that is the biggest ick ever.
Litter boxes too. I don't want that in my
Yeah,
house.
so it's so
That
gross,
you can
but you know
smell it
what,
when you
if
walk in people's houses. It's
yeah, good for the Roman Empire for
yeah,
being cat people. Someone's got to do it, and
right.
you know what, it
They
worked
took
out
the
for them.
responsibility. Yeah.
So what advice do you think that, or any man listening to this podcast right now, what advice can you give to them about like taking away something from the Roman Empire and using that in their everyday life?
I think one thing that the Roman Empire did very well was like the camaraderie that they had, especially when you look at, military wise. It was saying the Bible, iron sharpens iron. I think one of the most important aspects that we can have as people is community. I think that, with the whole COVID stuff and the mandates and not seeing people, I think a lot of people, I mean, look at, suicide rates in men. I'm 25 to 35. It's just gone through the roof. Man wasn't made to be alone. So I think the Roman Empire they did a really good job at caring for each other, being with each other, being around each other. Festivals, parties, family organization, like they were just always with people. And I think that's like my biggest thing for any guy my age or older or younger is, surround yourself with high caliber, good quality men, because that's the only way that you're going to grow. It's something that you see in, a lot of younger kids, the problem child, 9 times out of 10, it's, single mom. And, God bless every single mom out there because I couldn't do it. But, there's a reason why there's a nuclear family, because, men raise men. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Who you surround yourself matters, and you essentially you are who your friends are.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't like to hear that because they're like, no, I can be friends with anyone. But I mean, you rub off on each other. It's just human nature. It's
Right.
how things work. So if you surround yourself around a group of people, often you then take their traits and likewise, like you kind of blend. That is completely normal, but like a friend is a representation of who you are. It's an extension. I think that's really important who you surround your friends, who's in your life and who you spend your time with, because it says a lot about you, and you want to be surrounding yourself with people that are uplifting you and making you better. And I feel like men probably often don't think about that because they're like, oh, I just want to hang out with my guy friends and drink beer and hang out with the boys on the weekend, and it's like, okay, we'll just like do whatever, and that's fine. But I think if you have like, even like guys, if you have like toxic friends that only want to go out and drink, and it's like they're not doing anything productive in life, you then start to do that because all of your plans kind of revolve around that. So I think that's a really important takeaway.
No,
That's
definitely. I mean, what people say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I think that throughout my life, I can look back and think about the groups of people that I spent time with and, the highs and the lows during those time periods. When I was with this group, all this stuff happened, and it makes sense why all that happened. You know what I mean? When I was with this group, it's like all these good things happened because they were great, great people. And even, in hard times and bad times, it's nice to have those guys that you can rely on and just honestly be brutally honest with them. Say, hey, look, this is what's going on, XYZ. And having those guys that are like, hey, man, I'm here for you and I love you regardless. I think that my dad always talks about like a loving masculinity. A lot of times as guys, you don't hear a lot of guys saying, hey, love you, I love you too, whatever it is. But I think it's so important too that you express the friendship and, the right there-ness, like you're there for them. Not just to like, oh, we're guys, we have to be tough 24/7. We can't express any emotion. We can't do this. And like, that's not true. That's why you have to have those guys around you so you can go to them with those things that you may not, go to some random person with. Right. So that's my biggest takeaway is just, we're meant to have community, make sure that it's a good one, and, have a solid group of guys to surround yourself with, because I think that's the best way, spiritually, mentally, physically, whatever it is, whatever your goals are, be around people that are going to push you, hold you accountable, and call you on your bullshit.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about the loving masculinity thing, because I feel that a lot of men are afraid to be vulnerable and they won't tell their guy friends that they love them because it feels weird. They're like, no, I don't want to like talk about my feelings. But I think that is really important because I mean, we're only human, right? Like you can build up a wall and act like it doesn't matter for as long as possible. But deep down, like we crave to be loved by others and love others.
Definitely.
Like it's just in our human design. And I think even as men, it's okay to express your appreciation for a certain friendship and let them know because you feel valued. And like Maslow's hierarchy of need, people actually just do need that. Is if they want to say that they don't and they don't need to hear that and they're tough, that's not actually true. Like you can say that you're tough all that you want, but people do like to hear validation sometimes. It's not like you need to constantly be seeking it, but from the people you love, validation does matter. So I think even as guys, it's good to call up your guy friends and let them know because I can't imagine. Like girls, I think it's so different because me and my girlfriend, every time we hang up the phone, like we'll say that we love each other. And
Yeah.
if one of us doesn't say it, we'll be like, wait, what? And like we'll text each other. So like for girls, it's so easy to do that. But I think as guys,
Right.
you want to be the protector, you want to be masculine.
For sure.
And guys think that you don't have to do it. But I think that's a really interesting angle, is that you don't always have to be like the hard masculine. You can be like a soft and loving masculine.
Definitely. Yeah. It's you look at people who grew up, where their dad was just, general. That's all they were, right? I think you can look at people and like tell by the way they act whose dads told them that they love them, whose dads gave them a hug, right? Whose dads said they were proud of them. And I think that's something that, I was super grateful for, was having a loving dad who taught me, be strong when necessary, right? Be tough when need be, but like it's okay. It's okay to cry. You always see a real man cry, right? Whatever it is. So I think that being able to celebrate those highs and the lows and be authentic and vulnerable, you're not doing it because of the affirmation, but because of the affirmation, it can lead you to be better at it. It's not like, you need one to do the other. I think that's what our generation has really struggled with, is you need a pat on the back every time you do something good. Yep. And I not everybody gets first place. Not everybody wins. Second place, third place, fourth place, those are things for a reason. But I feel like now there's a lot of men who they've kind of warped that like affirmation, that need, as in like, I can't do this unless I have an affirmation for this, or I can't do this unless someone notices, or I can't do this unless I get a gold star. Yeah. So it's how do you balance? I think that's the hardest part about being a guy is, being masculine, having that loving masculinity, but how do I balance the two in a healthy way that, allows me to continue being the man that I was like created to be, but also be sweet, be gentle, and be loving when that's needed. So it's not easy. It's a tightrope, but if life was easy, then it wouldn't be as fun, right? So
yeah, there's a perfect balance. And who knew that the Roman Empire had like such I guess an important impact on men's everyday life, because I think your perspective kind of explained it, that it's not just like about men building things, it's much deeper, and it's kind of like the values in the mark that they left on the world. So who knew? Because I'm just like thinking that men are like, oh, okay, building Roman Empire. I have no idea. But what an interesting perspective you have, Christian. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. And I think like my biggest one last thing. I'm going to tell you the girls' Roman Empire, because what do you think that girls think about? And like, what is a girl's Roman Empire?
Like online shopping, maybe.
Oh my God. I'm you know what? You're probably not wrong about that.
I'm trying to think of something that's actually like Princess Diana. That's it. Princess Diana.
Oh, okay. You know what? I feel like that's a good one. I would say I think it would, online shopping for sure. I would say that like Princess Diana is up there, and I would say that Audrey Hepburn is up there too. Like, at least for me, like she's such a classy woman, and when I think a woman of class and that's sweet and feminine, it's probably going to be like Audrey Hepburn or Jackie Kennedy, Princess Diana. I think that because you guys think about the Roman Empire so much because it represents masculinity. So like, I guess a woman's Roman Empire would be someone that represents femininity. And I feel like just like the perfect example is probably like you said, like Princess Diana or Jackie Kennedy or Audrey Hepburn, because it's like they were a classy woman. And when you think about, what represents a woman today, it's like Lizzo or Nicki Minaj, and that is not femininity at all. So I think like you kind of just like have to like find a good role model that represents, who you are intrinsically, which is like
for
feminine.
Sure. Yeah.
Perfect.
That makes a lot of sense.
So that, I would say that is like a girl's Roman Empire. I can't speak for everyone. I would say that a lot of the girls would probably say Taylor Swift, which I'm not a huge Swiftie, but I like Tucker Carlson. But that's if I were to think about someone every day, it would probably be Tucker Carlson or Donald Trump, and that would maybe be like top of the line for my Roman Empire.
Yeah, it's funny how everyone's Roman Empire is probably different in a way, but there's still some similarities. And like you said,
Yeah.
there's a couple, big three that people probably tend to think about a lot. But, I'm curious to see what everyone's individual Roman Empire would be too, on top of that, like you were saying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, who people think about every day. It's very, very
definitely.
interesting. But I'm glad that we finally got it figured out, ladies. We know why men think about the Roman Empire so much. So thank you, Christian, for coming on and explaining
Definitely.
that to us, because it was very insightful to hear your perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. And, I appreciate sharing. Hopefully it's a shared opinion from all the guys.
Yep.
But if not, then there's my opinion for you.